And we're
Yeah.
live. Hi, guys. Welcome to another Lit Author conversation. Today, I have with me Jane Kizza, who is the
What's
author
up?
of uh, The Journals of He, The Beginning, The Continuance. And I feel like there's a third one coming up very soon, which is The End.
Facts.
Is it The End?
Yeah.
The End.
Well, it's the
Yes.
conclusion, but hey,
The
the end. Yeah,
conclusion.
basically.
Okay, the
Yeah.
conclusion, the end. Okay,
Yeah.
I actually love how these books have been titled. I actually
Oh,
thought,
thank
you know,
God.
that at some point I thought there would be it's the journals of he, right? From her
Mm, mm,
perspective. I actually thought that at some point there would be the journals of her from his perspective.
mm,
But I don't
mm,
know what's coming in book 2 and 3 because if I'm being upfront and honest, right? I've only
yeah,
read
yeah.
book 1, book 2. I think it's on my TBR pile. I can find it now. It's on my pile
It's cool. It's
to read
cool.
next. So I don't know what goes
Mm.
on there. You might give me more perspective on the other side. But anyway, let me give you a chance to say hi.
Okay, so hi, my name is Jane. How's everyone doing? Okay, so I am a resident of Introvert Nation. So questions like this give me cramps, y'all. They just stress me out. So I'm just gonna go and go and go and hope that I so I am the youngest of four, all girls, and I'm a nurse. I work with tiny humans, babies, and in an emergency unit for babies. So basically, that means any baby that's not quite ready to be in the world. So that could be anything: birth trauma, too early, on time but sick, a whole array of things. Like for as long as they
Mm,
don't meet the criteria to be out in the world, they come to us and we try and make them ready. We don't always succeed, but such is life. I mean, health sciences, you can't save everyone, but yeah.
yes.
Um, Also, I'm an author as of 2021. Yo, what's up? I I love reading, I love writing, and music and movies. Like these are like my primary sources of what's the word sanity, because life can be a bit much.
Mm.
So then
Art is so
that's where
important.
I yes, it is, and that's where I find my joy.
Mm.
Um, so the journals are pretty much my first official publication with, how do I put it, with my spine, because I put
Yes.
my back into this. I
Love it.
did the research. I took the time. I put my effort into it, and this is like
Mm.
hopefully the beginning of a longer
Mm.
journey. Like I'm not doing this for millions and millions and millions of rands. It's a passion project, and it just bloomed. And
Mm.
oh, like nerves, stress, but like I'm excited to like allow everyone into this space, and hopefully they can connect with this book, and
Mm.
even if it inspires them to create as well, like
Mm-hmm.
across the board, wherever, or it makes them think, ugh, this book was so badly written, I need to write something better. But like,
Yeah.
so I know that's where we are. Yeah. So that's me.
And you know what? It always goes back to that, right? It's write the book that
Mm.
you want to read. You wrote the book that you wanted
Oh,
to
yeah.
read. If somebody else is
Facts.
piqued by the book that you have
Mm.
written and feels like, okay, I feel like I love Jane's story so much, but I feel like I needed a little bit more of, then they must write the book that they want to read, you know? And
Exactly.
I feel
Exactly.
like as authors, you must give yourself that freedom
Yeah.
of I've written the book that was birthed within me and I've done it
Yeah.
justice. And this is the book that I
Yeah.
have to offer. And that's all, you
Yeah.
know, whether or not
Yeah.
the rest of the public ends up loving it, not loving it, having
Hmm.
questions. At the end of the day, you've done and it's kind of like a baby, right? So it does,
Yeah.
like you saying you
Yeah.
work with babies. I absolutely love infants. I love, like,
They're
for
so
me, that's
fresh
my
and
perfect
lovely.
age. But exactly, but you've got no choice as to what you end up birthing, right? Whether you
Yeah.
can't choose if
Yeah.
they're gonna be male, they're gonna be female, they're gonna have all their
Mm.
fingers, all their toes, nothing. But that's the
Hmm.
baby you've been given, and that's the baby you've been
Yes.
given to raise, right? I feel like it's the same
Yeah.
with books. That's the
Yeah.
book you were given. That's the book you were meant to have written,
Yes.
and that's a book that you
Uh,
are meant to have birthed in a sense. And
yes.
it requires no apology before you introduce it. That's what I'm trying to get at. It's like me introducing my kids.
Absolutely.
I'm not like, oh, okay, if you don't like them, like no, they're perfect. They are
Yes.
definitely perfect. You'll hear it from me
Facts.
first. They are it.
Uh,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because like while you're saying that, I had originally thought to myself, okay, I am going to write some spy, espionage, butt kicking females. And then this book comes to me literally in a dream, very spicy dream, my goodness. But like,
I can't believe you. Okay, after what I saw, I believe.
Yeah. And then like I'm writing it and it just feels right. It feels like this is where I plant my flag. So even if later on in my life I deviate and I go into spycraft and whatever, the fact is this book, it came to me. It literally came.
And
God
that
said,
was
yes,
your
you're my child. But
firstborn, right? Yes, and
yeah,
that was your firstborn.
yeah.
It's your first, the book that you were meant to start with, and that
Mm-hmm.
is, for me, I feel like that's everything. I write,
Yeah.
but I don't write in a fiction. Like my career is about
Mm-hmm,
writing,
mm-hmm.
so I
Yeah, yeah.
comprehend the labor of putting words together. I get it.
Yes, yes,
I
yeah.
absolutely get it. And if you can do
That is a
that
lot.
from cover to cover, it's one of those things that I'm like, listen,
Mm-hmm.
I don't care. You like it, you don't like it. This is what I'm giving you. Deal with it.
Exactly.
Deal
Like
with it. Deal with it.
if it doesn't speak to you, then you're not the person that it's meant for. So
Right. And
move
it's
along.
allowed.
Yeah.
It's allowed. It's allowed. You
Yes.
don't like it, that's okay. That's okay. We don't
Mm-hmm.
even have to have a debate about it. It's not for you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for having considered it. If it's not for you,
Mm.
for you.
Then we
So
move. We
absolutely,
move.
we move, we
Yeah.
move. So just tell us a little bit more about you. I did cut you there. I got a little bit excited because I heard something you said. But tell us a little bit more about you. You are of Ugandan descent, right?
Yes, 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 yes. That story. Okay, so my parents came here a long, long time ago. And I think by the time they got here, the first two were already born, right? So
Okay.
then my other sister, like the third born, and I, we came a little later when my parents were already here. So I was born and raised northwest side. I only moved to Joburg for school, but because you know how nursing works, literally first year, you're already put on the SANC roster, you're already considered an employee. And then normally when you do your community service, you do it in the province where you studied. So then I ended up
Yeah.
staying here. Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
then the kind of community I grew up in was that it was inside the compound where the hospital was. So lots of
Okay.
doctors, lots of nurses, and
Okay.
like from across the world. I didn't know
Mm-hmm.
where these doctors were from. I just knew these are
Mm-hmm.
my dad's colleagues, they're his friends. So then you meet a lot of cultures like within that compound. And then as a result, that's sort of where I developed my liking for the English language from there, because that was our main form of
Mm-hmm.
communication. So then
Mm-hmm.
obviously within each family they have their language,
Mm-hmm.
but then you come
Mm-hmm.
into the world and that's like the
That's how you
communication.
guys mingle, yes. And
Yes, yes,
talk to each
yes.
other. I hear you. Mm-hmm.
Exactly, exactly. And then like with regards to how I developed a liking for writing, I didn't have that, ooh, when I grow up I want to be a writer. I never had that. Never.
Mm-hmm.
I was just kind of that kid that was there. So it's like, okay, so this is what we're doing now. I'm born, all right. Next,
Mm-hmm.
school. Okay, so we're schooling now. It's like friends. Also, these are what friends are. Okay, we're doing that now. So even with my writing, um, because I don't know if this was like with like with you in your youth, when you come back from the holidays, you must write. When I went on holiday, I went to visit who so and so, and so then they would tell us to do that, and then
What did they used to
I'm
call
like,
them back in the day? They used to have a name for them. It wasn't
mhm.
essays. What was it?
Yeah, it was just part
It
of
had
the
a name for
creative
it.
writing process, but yeah, there
Yeah.
was.
Yeah,
So
you had
then,
to definitely come back with something.
and then for me, I had like nowhere to, because my people were
I
in
stayed alone.
Uganda. They're
Yeah,
far,
I hear you.
yeah. So then my people would like we would just stay home. We'd only go home at the end of the year, so Christmas break, because on top of that,
Mm.
mom is a nurse, dad is a doctor. There is no
Oh,
time for that. Yeah, yeah.
okay.
And then
Okay.
I know, okay, so when I started nursing, I understood the level that my dad was at. And then now that I see
Mhm.
people at his rank that time, it makes sense
Mhm.
why he was
Mhm.
always, always at home, at work, at home, at work. There
Mhm.
was just no time
Mhm.
to do anything else. So then
Mhm.
my teachers would tell me, just write whatever comes to mind, make up a story. And then I would
Okay.
make up
Oh, so you had
stories.
to
Yeah. And
record
even
the
though,
assignment. Okay.
hmm and then even though I have no memory of what I wrote, I just know that as the years progressed, it was good enough that every single English teacher I had, they would be like, but you're good at creative writing, you're good at this. And I'm like, okay, so now this is what we're doing now. Now I'm doing creative
Okay,
writing.
I like
And it started with poetry, always 4-line poems that rhyme, and that
that.
evolved obviously as it happens when you are learning a language and everything about it. And it was only high school side that I'm like, okay, I'm going to start writing for fun. And granted, it was a lot of rubbish, but it was good enough
That's how
to,
you learn, though.
yeah. Like I go back and I'm like, hey, girl, why? What is this rubbish, But I grew from that, and it was only in my more mature years, like after the teens, that I realized,
Mm,
no, but this is now a passion actually, because then
mhm.
it's cheaper than therapy, for lack of a better way to put it. Because
Yes, yes.
when I write, I feel so much better afterwards. So
I was about to
that's how
say
we
that's
ended up
why I
here.
think that whole journaling movement is also on the rise, right? Because it does
Yeah,
allow you
yeah.
a form of release. So I can completely comprehend that. And when you say that you
Mm,
look back on your older stuff and you cringe, I
mm.
absolutely feel like as somebody who is a creative, you should look back and
Yeah.
think, who was that? Because it
What?
means that you've evolved, you've grown. Like, what the hell is that?
Yeah,
Like, okay,
bro.
it was me, but I'm sorry.
Yeah, we grown, we
I
grown.
can't identify because you've grown, right? Because if you felt
Yeah,
like at every stage of the journey, everything
yeah.
was absolutely it, then there's no growth. It means that you've stayed in the same spot. You've seen no different
Mm.
from
Facts.
how you were seeing before. You're right.
Yeah, yeah.
So I absolutely love that. Fine, let's
Mm-hmm.
dig in. Let's dig in. So let's get the more serious questions out of the way
Uh,
first. Tell us about
mm,
your writing
mm,
process. When did you know that you had a story that you wanted to be read? Now, you've spoken about
mm,
how growing up, your whole idea was not that you wanted to grow up to be really an author. So, when did
mm,
this book come to you, and how did you know that it's not one of those things? Because I know that as writers, sometimes you have
mm.
stories that you have for yourself, right? That you
Yeah.
will write,
Uh,
that you will play out in your head, but those are yours. Do you feel like these are not really things that I want to give to the public? These are my gifts
yeah,
for me,
yeah,
myself.
yeah,
But
yeah.
how did you know that I had a story and this is the story that I wanted people to read?
Um, okay, like I said, there was a dream. So it's very, very PG. So we're not gonna get into the depths of that, because I know my people are loitering. I know you there, people. So I'm,
I see you.
I see you. So then, after that dream, it's like literally because it woke me up in the middle of the night, and I'm like, no, this must be written. So I
I,
wrote it,
I believe,
and it
like
stands
everything you're
alone.
saying, I believe it. I believe you.
Hmm.
You woke up in the
So
middle
the,
of the night.
oh yeah, I woke up in the middle of the night. Like, why ain't you real, homie? Like, what is this? So then I write that dream out, and then of course I must get serious about adulting, and then continue my sleeping until the alarm goes off, and then I must prepare for work, and I must go get real. And then it just kept on. Besides the usual response to a dream like that, where it just keeps on nagging at you, there's just desire to expand it and make it something. So the original manuscript was just flashbacks from in the future, like they had
Okay.
already reached the happy
Okay.
ending, and then were flashing back and were telling the reader how they became who they are together as a unit. And then from that, it evolved because then I started this like 2009, that's second year nursing, after I had my first real taste of like men out there, outside of Little Mohwase, outside of the people that I have spent
Yeah.
preschool to grade 12
Yeah.
with. And then
Yeah.
you just keep meeting more of them because vids, you've seen it, it's colorful in terms of the people. They are just diverse across the board.
I actually
So
also went
then,
there. That's my alma
yeah.
mater as well. So I know what
Mm-hmm,
you mean.
mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like a shock first time you experience it. So then, because well, nursing school is, yeah, it's a lot, bruh. Well, not that any other degree is not a lot, but this one
Yeah,
showed
I
me,
hear you.
dealt with me. So then I would go back to the manuscript every single time, even though I would deviate sometimes based on my mood or my circumstances at the time. that one was the one that just kept drawing me back. It's like, come back, write me, tell me, you
Mm.
want to say
Tell
something.
them about me,
Yeah.
yes.
And then Dominic, he didn't even have a name. Dom was just there. He was he, literally. That's why the title is like that, Journals
Is
of
it
He.
okay?
He was
Okay.
he was him. I didn't know how he looked like. I didn't know what his life was about. But then that manuscript in between varsity classes, in between exams, on those breaks where we're doing practicals only, and you're in the hospital. And then because we're students, we're not allowed to do a lot of things sometimes. So then in those gaps, it's like, write me, write me. And then it just kept growing and growing. And then Dom has a face, he has eyes, he has a story. Delia, it's all coming together. And then there's just that sense that, no, you must share this. So then it started with WordPress. I would share a chapter a week, and then the readers kept coming. And then because of the mature nature of the content, obviously Facebook did what it does. It's like, we can't be sharing this link because it's a bit, it's a bit much. Yeah. So then you get like, it was only okay. So post grad, obviously, flash forward to like 2020, COVID comes. And all of us are just like, what is this, right? And then everybody is brought indoors. We can't go out. We can't go anywhere. So where is everybody? They're on their phones. What are they doing? Social media. What can they do? We
Trying to
can't go to the
connect,
bookstore. And so then you can't go to a bookstore and buy books, but you can read them on your phone. So then people discover the Journals of He on WordPress. And then you get a bunch of them that are like, you know what? Me and my eyes and my phone, we're not friends. Make this a book and I will buy it. I promise you. Make it a book. And then I'm like, people are just dying. Like, because we don't know, it's an enemy you're fighting that you can't see. We didn't know much about COVID. And then I'm like, you know what? I've never understood YOLO because I'm introverted. YOLO what? Even being at home is nice. What's your problem? So then I'm like, we're doing this. So I'm like, I'm doing this. And then here we are.
It happened, and I'm so glad it happened. I'm really glad that it happened, and especially in a way that you got to a point where you realize that people have an appetite for the story that you wanted to read. And for me, it doesn't matter if it's 10 people or 5. Do you get what I'm trying to say? But there's somebody out there who feels like they would read this and they would probably tell people about this. So for me, that's enough of a push, right? For you to be able to put that out there. So I just want to greet Njabula. Hi, Njabula. Njabula says she completely agrees. The work is what it is, and the right people will find it. So that's going back to writing the story that you want to write, that's birthed in you. And whenever they find it is whenever they find it. And I suppose going back to this whole notion of art, right? When you were introducing yourself and saying that, speaking of the things that you are most fond of, I think during COVID in 2020, art is the one thing that actually saved a lot of people, right? It saved so many people, whether it be music, whether it be movies, whether it be books, whether it be actual art, right? That's when people got an appreciation of how that kind of industry actually helps you beyond just what you perceive, but deep down in your soul as well. I know that I read more than I had ever read before during that time as well, because it was a time where I really needed things to be consistent as possible. And nothing beats the consistency of reading a book, closing a book, reading another book, closing another book, because it feels like the time is also flowing. So I'm glad that you were found during that time. So besides the dream, right, where you dreamed up Dom, and I'm pretty sure that in the dream it was pretty much a physical Dom, right? And then you came through at some point and you gave Dom personality. Besides the dream, what else inspired? And you've mentioned the audience that came back and said, I want to read it, but I want to find out more of what in you also, besides the dream, inspired you to take the risk to write a book of this nature, as steamy as it is, right? Because I'm pretty sure that every time you've spoken to anybody, they're like, oh, okay,
that's the book you So it's a number of things that inspired it. Well, the most obvious one is if you've read, in fact, any book, it doesn't matter what the genre is, you will
Yeah.
find that people like us are not, the hero characters. They're not. And if they're mentioned, it's like in passing and they're
Yeah.
struggling or they die first or all the
Mhm.
problems. We're not, center stage taking,
Mhm.
the fire and all that.
We
Mm.
don't
So
win
then
basically in those stories. Yeah.
we don't win. We don't.
Yeah.
So then, like, I was reading a lot of Mills and Boone, lots of love stories there. And then only when I got older and like, it was a lot, eh? It was a drug.
And the reason why I'm
Yeah.
laughing at you is that I went to an all-girls school and I had a phase with the Mills and Boone. Up until they
Oh
had
yeah.
to ban those books for us. They were like, no, public
No.
library, if they dressed in this uniform, do not give them these books. They were like crack at some point, but okay,
They
I hear
were.
you.
And,
Yeah.
and you don't even realize it's the same storyline over and over. But like,
Yes, it's
um,
just different names.
yes, yes, man. So then I had only known like people of like let's see, the Ugandan community were dark like this. So then like I hadn't been exposed to other communities from wherever having the same color. So then I remember, for lack of a better word, he was a very beautiful man. Like he was dark skinned like me. It had been put into my mind that the kind of darkness that I have in my skin is just a no. It's just a no. So then I get to Vets, and because my dad graduated there, he's like, "Oh, I want to see how it looks like now." Because he graduated in like 1989 or something. I wasn't even a twinkle in my mom's eye that
Yeah.
time. So that had been, yeah. So then I go
Okay,
for
you're quite young
registration.
though. You're so young. Why are you writing such things, Jane? Because
Well,
now, after you've said that, now I am your
hey,
sissy, I am your elder. And the things you have written.
what? Like I'm 30. Come on, I'm grown. Like, but like he told me, he's like, go and register because then everybody's registering that day. So he's like, follow the people. I'm gonna go explore, and I'm like, okay, fine. So then I follow the people, and then
Let
there's
you
just
out
just
into the big
random.
wide world.
You
Mm,
know, he's like, go there. I'm gonna go see if
mm,
the library is still the library from all those years ago. And then I'm walking down there by Senate House. That place is a maze, right? And then he's just standing there. He's just the guy, just standing there, but he's
mm,
dark and he's tall, and you can see
mm,
there's just.
mm,
And I'm like,
yeah.
well, hi. I'm gonna ask you a stupid question. I'm here to register. Like, so where do I go? Even though
I
big
must
sign,
talk. I must talk to you. I have to.
I must.
The sign that time is saying
Exactly.
registration here. You're like,
You know,
sorry,
so
wrong.
I'm lost. Help me, my man. And
Damsel
from
in
there, it's
distress.
just very much damsel in distress. Like I'm not that person. I tend to, handle my own distress.
Yes,
But
yes,
that time,
I
I'm
hear
like,
you. It
must,
was a
must
a
know,
must
must.
right
It had to
now.
happen. And then from there, and he doesn't know me, but he was kind. Like it seemed like
Yes.
his default setting is kindness. And then like that stuck with me. Just those 2 seconds of interaction, and he's like, "No, turn this way." And you're like, "Oh, I will go there, but like give me a second. Oh, you look beautiful." Right, moving on. And then from there, it's all these small memories of how I had been treated so nicely by these random black men. Some of them became friends later on, like across the board, because then it's one thing to be exposed to black men from like youth, and then they become like, particularly the ones outside family, you see them like brothers. You don't see them as, men. So then as soon as you go out into the world, you're like, how? But most there are lovely ones out there, despite how media portrays them as big and scary, And then from there, when I was trying to discover or like understand Dominic's character, I'm like, what are we gonna, how do we make him? And I'm like, remember all the times that all these black men were kind to you. Remember all those moments you had with them that stuck with you for whatever reason, whether they made you feel safe or they made you feel desired, or it was just appreciation for how beautiful they are. And I'm like, put that all together, make this man put in all your fantasies, hint, hint, wink, wink, and then build a story around him. So then,
Yeah, let me just say also, your fantasies are our fantasies, okay? Because listen,
yes.
like that's why even during my vlog, I was like, if Jane knows men like this, nah, I want to be in your pocket everywhere you go. Because what perfection? What perfection is that?
Like, and that's what I'm
Yes.
saying. I'm like, a lot of people, when they first discovered journals, they're like, wait, he's black? I'm like, yeah. Why is it? Why wouldn't he be? And they're like, how? And I'm like, one thing you need to understand is Dom is not just one man. He is a
Yeah.
compilation of many. And they are still here, even right up to like that one scene. It's my favorite scene, is that nonverbal moment that they have at the Health and Wellness Center when he's just looking at her and she's just looking at him. And of
That's at the
course, she's
start of
having the
the book.
natural,
At the start,
yes,
right? Okay, yes.
because then even though she's having the normal human response to him, like, how are your eyes that color when you're that dark,
Yes. How are you
and
like
also
this?
you, how,
Yeah, yeah.
and
How, why,
you
and
are
also why
a,
are you like this? Why are you
like,
like this?
wow,
How are you like
what is
this?
this,
We need
you know?
answers.
Exactly. And the funny thing is that is based on an actual event. Granted, I was not in distress, but I mean, it wasn't in physical distress. It was more my introvert nature was happening because it's a loud room. Everyone is making noise. I'm just dissociating. I don't know. And then he literally just comes. He was a classmate. It was us and the occupational therapist. He comes, he sits in front of me, his elbows on my knees, and he looks up at me. Are you okay? And I'm like, just came right back down to earth. And I'm
Really,
like,
really.
like,
Am I in a rom-com right now?
yeah, exactly. Because like, even though like physically I wasn't in distress, but like mentally I was having a moment, and he just, and I'm like, you know what? That was a spectacular moment because he went on to be like one of my closest friends, and I'm like, I'm gonna use this so that people can see that this does happen. It does happen, even if it's different situations. Even though he's not gonna come and sit in front of you, and still it happens. And like, and I'm pretty much saying, yes, I know it's a lot, and we are going through a lot as Black women, across the board and here, and our statistics and all that. But also be open to the possibility that you deserve moments like this. You deserve them by virtue of being a human being. You deserve to know that there are men, Black men, that, yeah, they will be there for you just by virtue of the fact that, hey, you're a human and you deserve it. So from there, I'm like, this is my love letter to all these Black men. And also, it's an invitation to like the target audience, which is mainly Black women, to, visualize a life like that for themselves. They don't have to, um, you know, settle for less. Just open yourself up to the possibility that, yeah, this is coming to me. Granted, he will not have hazel eyes, or he won't be like a billionaire's son, but he will be a good man, and you deserve that. So that's just,
And I will say you did actually do quite. For me, whenever I go into romance stories, I usually fall in love
yeah,
with the female lead first, more than I fall in love
yeah,
with me. And when I say first, it's probably till the very end of the book. The person that I find the most interesting is the female
yeah,
lead, right? But I will
yeah,
say that in this story, the person who captured me the most was definitely Dominic. And I suppose it goes
yeah,
back to what you've just said, that he's a Black man with characteristics that we might be used to. For example, I know that I come from a family, when I talk about my dad and his brothers, are very kind men. So kindness is a very important thing to me, but it's not something that I see in
yeah,
my generation very much, right? So
yeah,
I don't
yeah,
really picture it in a romantic setup, but I do picture
yeah,
it.
yeah,
When I picture it in a man, a Black man, I think of a father, a grandfather. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Where that kind of
yeah,
thing
yeah,
exists. It was very
yeah,
nice to see you create a young Black man who had those qualities. And I really
yeah.
commend you for Dom. Dom is a very, like, I can't wait to see what
Thank you.
comes in book two. He's an exceptional character. Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely love him. And the fact that the thing is, you can create something and it can sometimes slip and come back and slip, but you are very consistent with his character. He's very
Yeah.
he is who he is. I don't feel at any point that
Yes.
I don't believe that this man is right. Obviously, you do drop in some suspicions, which I feel like obviously there's no perfect human being, but ultimately, though, when we have to testify of who Dom is, he's exactly
Yeah.
what you have fashioned him to be,
Yes.
and he has
Yes.
a very good makeup of some very good qualities, and I absolutely love that about
Yes.
that
Yes. Yes.
character.
Yes. Yeah. He's
So
our
my next
boyfriend. We
question
love him.
then to you is, yes,
Oh.
he's our guy, please. And so my next question is, who in your family has read your books and what have their feedback been? Tell the truth, shame the devil.
That's
Does the grandmother, did the grandmother read the book? Your mom, your dad, your auntie? Like, tell us. We want to know. Because for me, as I was paging through, right, and when I got into the meat of the book, I'm like, oh, Jane, your mom and your dad are saying, oh, no, my daughter is an author. This is her book, giving it confidently to their friends. And then they're like, I'm on page 280. Ah,
We're
Jane. I
and
said
it's exactly
you.
like that. Yeah, because then like since the birth of WhatsApp, there's groups everywhere. So now we will have our young group, our people, and then I only learned later that the parents also have theirs. And now because my older sisters now are pretty much almost the peers of like my parents, and because they
Yeah,
are
okay, I hear you. I hear
part of
you.
the yeah, and they're part of the collective that speaks the Luganda, the proper Ugandan language, whereas some
Yeah,
of us
okay.
don't know
Okay.
squat, bruh, because like I was born and raised here. You could like give
I,
me lotto
I
numbers in
get
the
you
home
though.
language, and yeah. So
And
then
you would
my
miss
sister,
your riches.
I miss it, dude. So like my sister comes and she's like, girl, dad posted something on the group. I'm like, what you mean you posted something on the group? And then she'll be like, posted the link to your book. I'm like, what you mean he posted the link to my group? And it's all the uncles and
You
all the
posted
aunties, all of them. And
some
I'm like,
I
yeah, I'm like,
cannot.
but dad, you should have asked me what the book is about. Because like I mean the cover is steamy on its own. Look at her. Look at just read the name.
Anything. And the
But
cover is it tells you. It tells you is for a certain age group, you cannot ask the father of the author. Why are you sharing
man,
this with your friend? Sir.
like dad. I'm like, but dad, oh my goodness, dad. And then he read it because he reads. He's a reader, and because he's that kind of dad
Just two
that's like, I'm
seconds,
gonna
Shane. I think
support my
something is up
baby.
with your audio. Can you fix your
Oh
microphone
no.
just a little bit?
Can
Okay.
you hear me now?
We keep
Am I better?
yes, you're fine. Yes,
Okay,
you're way
all right.
better.
Where did I lose myself? Oh, so I'm like, my dad is the kind of father that's gonna support. Doesn't matter, what it is. He is going to read it because he's an avid reader. He reads everything, and I'm like, but dad, you don't gotta read this though. You don't gotta read this. Like, you can give me the
You
money
know,
and don't buy the
you can
book,
leave this one.
but just sit this one out. And he's like,
I'll give it
no,
away
I
to a
was.
deserving reader.
You know, I was hoping he would do that, but he read it, and I'm like, okay, moment of truth. So,
He read
Dad,
it.
what you think? He
Unamanga
read it,
Jane. Your
cover
dad
to
read
cover. He read it. I'm like, and not that only, because he goes to Uganda at the end of the year. So he took it with him in his beautiful carry-on luggage. He took it with him. And so the whole, when you get together for Christmas and all the cousins and all the aunties, they be seeing him reading this book. And then like they're like, Kizza who? Are you related to this Kizza? Is this Kizza one of ours? And he's like, no, it's my daughter reading. And I'm like, but dad, in front of the nation, dad, why? And like, we already know African culture is conservative. We know this. So I'm like, oh, I'm going to be getting the messages. They're going to be asking me, what was I doing in Joburg? They're going to bring the Holy Spirit and the water, and they're going to pray over my life. I can feel it.
everything.
So, bro, everything, man. And they're probably thinking this is what she was doing in Johannesburg when I sent her to get an education. She was there with that boy doing these things. That's why she
And they
don't want to
also want
come.
to know. They want to know who
They
the
want
real Dom is. Who is the real Dom?
uh-huh. But what I love about them, and bless their hearts, they are very. So they will give you the look
Oh,
like, I don't see you, but they will not come
we
and
know
say when
about
nah,
you.
we seen
Yeah,
you.
yeah,
And
yeah.
like the cool thing is they didn't pull me aside and be on some child. You need to account for
Mm.
this. Why are you putting this into the
Some
nation? Why are you
second baptism for this one.
yes, yeah. And that's why I asked him, I'm like, so what did you think? And he pauses. He's like, it was written very well. And I'm like, I will take
Hi,
that.
hi, hi.
Written very well is fine. I don't need to know the
It
specifics.
better be
It was written very
all you have to say. That better be all
I'm
you have to say.
okay, because I'm like, if he go ask me what happened in chapter 8, I will be like, but dad, you don't need to know that.
Girl.
That's not a father-daughter conversation. We can talk about nursing. Let me tell you about nursing. I saw a patient with 3 fingers. Rather that than talking about Dom and Delia. Because I mean, when you just look at the description of Delia, too similar. Way too similar. Hello braids, hello dark skin, hello large woman, hello.
Mm.
And then you have Dom here,
Are you
and then we're
talking
doing
about?
stuff
Are
on
you
the
trying to tell us your secrets? Huh? Huh? Yeah.
on the
I see
couch, talking to each other, releasing our voices,
you.
doing stuff. And when I asked my mom, he's like, I'm so glad they're in love and I'm so happy for them. I'm like, thank you, mommy. And then my sister, she's like, she's not the spicy reader. So then she's like, no, but I've got friends though. And I'm like, tell your friends. And then I asked her, I'm like,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
what did
yeah.
your friends think? And then she's like, no, they,
Mm.
called me over, let's have lunch. And then she tells me that they came and they said, I thought you said your sister was little. You said your little sister. And they're like, she's like, yeah, my little sister. What? Because I
Oh,
mean,
you're
anyone
breaking
under
up a
her?
bit.
Oh no, oh no, oh no. Can you hear me now? Am I better? Am
Yes,
I here? Can you hear me?
yes, yes,
Okay.
yes,
So
yes.
then her friends are like, I thought you said
Friends.
it was your little sister. And she's like, yeah, she's
Yes.
my little sister. And then
And
they're like, how
had
little
she
is
read the
she?
book, had she read the book, she would have said, "It's my sister."
Just,
Little was what the
just.
conclusion was. Yeah, just my sister.
Exactly.
Mm.
Because they're like, how little is she? And they're like, no, she's like, no, she's, approaching her 30s. She's thereabouts, because the book came out in 2021. I had just turned 31. So then they're like, oh, so she's not little. Oh, thank God. And she's like, what do you mean? And they're like, just don't call her little. When you introduce her, just say she's your sister.
Yeah.
Just,
Yeah, I don't know. No, from here on forth, I hope that's what she does. I hope that's what she does
mm-hmm.
because
Yeah.
I mean, like I with my little sister, I keep saying to people that she is my little sister. The day she writes anything like this, okay, anything like this with a cover like this, I'm like, I know it's my sister.
Yeah, just.
I want to
But
phone
it's,
her because the story is great, but I'm like, can't be explaining why my little sister's mind is like this.
it's
It's my
empty.
sister. It's my sister.
And that's about it. Like the rest of the family has not said anything, okay, except for my aunt, when she
Mm.
also had her own moment of disillusionment, because then she's like, um, she thought it was just romance, closed door romance. And then she discovers we are not closing
Oh,
the
don't
door.
you?
We are there. I'm like, but auntie, why did you?
No fade to blacks. Nothing. Jade is with you. Nothing is fading to no black.
No,
Mm.
we fade after we sleep, after we have expended our energy enjoying life. So,
Listen,
and that
for
was
me,
that.
especially my biggest fear as I was reading the book was your parents. Ne?
Mm,
So for me, I was like,
mm.
yeah, if my parents had read this book and it was my book, every time I'd have to serve them coffee, this would be me. I would
Like,
never look
Dumela,
them
excuse.
in the eye ever again. Ever again. Mhm, Especially my dad.
But,
Especially my dad. I would not. What do you mean?
like, I don't know what y'all talking about. And like, yo, like, I'm just glad that he doesn't bring it up. I don't bring it up. I just be like, Dad, book 2 is coming out, and I leave it there.
Yeah.
And now
Then
this
you
time
leave
I'm
it
like,
there.
Dad, and I'm like, book 3 is coming out, and I leave it there. I don't say what it's about. I don't tell
Love
him
it for
about
the
the
book
covers.
too.
Yeah,
I feel like he
because
also
we
understands the unspoken contract about this
fact.
business. Yes.
Yeah,
I love it for
yeah.
both of you. Love
Mm,
it.
because
So
otherwise, where?
yes. So I want to put you on the spot, right?
Oh
I've
God.
read the book, especially well, like I've read book 1, right? I'm about
Yeah.
to read book 2 very soon, right? I am a little
Mm-hmm.
biased because I feel like during our conversation it's probably pretty clear that I am sold on the Dom character. So
Yeah.
I would like you to be the one that pitches the series to everyone who is watching or likely to watch at a later stage. What is your book about?
Um. Oh wow. Yeah, that is always a difficult one. It's about, okay, now I'm just gonna go under them. I'm gonna make it umbrella concepts. I'm gonna try and
Yes,
like not
because you
spoil
must,
anything.
because and also make it very enticing. Because I feel before you start, you know what? I thank God for cats. Had it not been for
Mm.
cats
Yes,
raving
bless
on
cat.
about this book, I probably wouldn't have picked it up, right? Because I had never heard of you. I had never heard of the
Yeah,
book. So I was like, but
yeah,
Kat, who I know as a non-fiction reader,
yeah,
what's going on about this fiction
yeah,
steamy romance? I
yeah.
was like, yeah, I can. Let me read this book. Where is it? Where do I find it? I need to read it now because I need to understand why Kat is behaving like this. You understand?
Mhm.
So
Yes.
I feel like she
Ah,
really did, and she didn't spoil. She did a very good job of selling the book and actually
thank
making
you,
us
cat.
curious.
Yeah,
And I'm very grateful that she did because, like I'm saying,
yeah. Same, same, same.
being a first-time author is not an easy job. But
It's
I
not.
appreciate the fact that you've written the book that you are meant to write, and you form some
Yes,
very good solid characters. You know, there's a story there that we are willing to go
yeah,
into book 2 for and into book 3 for.
yes.
Even there are
Mhm.
some stories that fall flat on book 1, and you're like, what's
Mm,
like for me, I'll be honest with you, 50 Shades, I
yeah.
couldn't, right? As much as we always
Fair,
say that this
fair.
is 50 Shades meets what, but I feel like your
Yeah.
characters had more depth and more background story than the
Thank
characters in
you.
50 Shades. So I couldn't, after
Yeah.
book 1 of 50 Shades, that's the only book I ever read. I was like,
This is
and
not
I
for
can't,
me.
I can't. What else? What
Yeah.
else is
Yeah.
there? Book 2, what am I going there for? What is going to happen? Ah, no.
What is
So,
going to happen?
yes. So tell us
Um,
about the book or the series, rather,
so
not just the book, the series.
the series.
Because I feel
Okay,
like I
so
haven't read book 2, so I feel like you
mm,
know book 2, you know book 3. Tell us about the
mhm.
whole. Yes.
Like I
Try
always
your
suck at
best.
this. I
Don't tell
always
us.
suck at this.
But let me just tell people
Mm.
one thing for sure is that she
Uh,
serves the spice, she serves the steam. So aside from that, that is why I keep asking her
mm.
what her parents
Yeah.
said when they read the book. After, after she served us the steam and the spice, she
Yes.
needs to tell us because
Yes.
it's I feel like it's more than that. Even though those are the
Yes.
scenes that I feel like, yeah,
Yes.
you want to
Yes.
read. Both male and female,
Yeah.
you want to read
Yes.
those scenes. But but other than that, tell
What's it
us
about?
about the
Hmm.
series.
So it's about love. Okay, fundamentally, it's about love. And it's not just love between this guy and this girl. It's deeper than that. Like because like you said, the characters have depth, they have stories. It's what motivates them to seek out love, the steps they are willing to take to have a healthy love. Because then, if you look at mainstream, for example, there is always struggle in the Black stories that we tell, whether it is about love, which is the focus, or about the family dynamic, or.
Mm,
So, the Journals of He tells the story about it's an atypical character the way I see it in terms of books. Delia
mhm,
is quiet, she's reserved, she has all these hopes and all these dreams about how she wants her love life to be, but then her
mhm,
personality doesn't it doesn't allow her to step out and seek out that kind of,
Mm,
interaction with another human being. Like even from the beginning to the end, you see that even her friends, her group of friends, is a very small group because she's not
mm,
out there. And then
mhm,
as she's navigating her life as an individual, dealing with
mm,
school, dealing with mental health issues, dealing with
mm,
um, family dynamic, and moving to
mm,
this Joburg, which is bright
mm,
and shiny and loud,
mm,
she's also
mm,
thinking about love. Like, is this where I'm going to find love?
mm,
And then it happens just like that.
mhm,
There's
mhm,
the love.
mm,
And then
mm.
it tells a story about how you really don't have to prove your worth for love,
Yeah, yeah.
because then a lot of stories, particularly when they have black leads, there's always something happening to the guy or
Mm,
happening to the girl where they must prove they are worthy. They are struggling with
mm,
poverty, with each other, with secret
mm.
babies, with annoying families. It's just struggle, struggle,
And you
struggle,
know
and then
what?
happy ending. Yeah.
That's been my thing. I've never been big on
Mm,
romance. I only started reading a lot of romance last year, right? Because
mm,
it's a genre that I saw
yeah.
was picking up, and I thought, okay, let me
Yeah.
like. I won't count Mills and Boone. That was just smart. You
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
wanted
Yeah.
to read, So
Yeah.
I mean, actual romance, right? I was never big on
Yeah.
it. So obviously, when I
Mm,
started with it, it was a lot of
mm-hmm.
Caucasian authors who were writing the books that
Yeah.
I was stumbling
Yeah.
upon, right? And then
Yeah.
afterwards, I was like, okay, I'm discovering some Black authors. But what I didn't
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
was the fact that our romance stories, compared to the Caucasian authors that I was reading, was always
Yes.
accompanied with trauma, right? Any form of trauma, whether it's
Yes.
a family
Uh-huh.
situation, whether it's how
Mm.
one person has experienced society or whatever. And I was like, just give
Mm.
me a pure love. Give me love
Peace,
that doesn't, like,
soft.
that doesn't have to have all of
Yeah.
these politics. Like Black people can
You
fall in
know,
love without the rest of it. So I
yes,
appreciate that that's something
yes,
that did land on your mind when you were trying to
yes.
tell the
Mm.
story. Yeah.
Yeah, because then, okay, that is not to say that all those other stories are not valid. They are.
Mm-hmm.
But
Mm-hmm.
then I'm coming from a place of, because a lot of Caucasian authors, their love stories, they have, for lack of a better word, simple problems. They have actual
Yes,
relationship
that is
problems.
also true.
Mm, yeah. So then
Mm-hmm.
now I'm like, okay, I'm gonna bring these two characters together, and they're gonna find Dominic's love life and his other life, which is very alternative. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. We'll say that for now. We'll say that
yeah,
for now.
very alternative. Yeah. So then I'm like, let's give them problems that you would
Mm.
find in your mainstream characters, and now
Yeah,
let's
yeah.
make them black. Let's make them black,
Mm.
and then let's not
Mm.
center the way that they deal with them on their blackness. Because I'm like, yes, the characters
Yes.
are black. It's they're black, but that's not the center of the story. It isn't. Fine. It's a foundation. It's the rock on which we build, but let's not make it about that. Let's not be like,
Oh, I'm
okay,
so
because at
glad
one
you
point,
did that. I'm so glad.
yeah, because I had some people who were like, no, man, you must put them in a village. I'm like, okay, fine. Even if I put them in a village, they still gonna have soft life problems. All right, we're not
To
gonna
do
fight
what?
about this.
So to do
To
what? So in a village,
black, bro.
why? No,
I'm
stop
like,
that.
let him.
Stop that. Because this is what I was also sorry
Yeah,
to talk to what you're saying. What I said about the
mm,
Caucasian authored books is that there
yeah,
came a point because I was hungering so much for these Black romance stories where in my
mm,
head, even if the author said it's James and Sophia, my head,
yeah,
yeah, it's Vuvu and Tamsan. And like I don't
see,
give because the thing is the way that those characters were put together, right?
yeah,
Is
mm,
it didn't make me feel like they couldn't be Black. It's just that this is
mm,
authored by a white person, right? So I automatically
yes,
know that there's very little chance that they are Black. But in terms of the
yeah,
love story, it could. So I feel like the reverse should also be true. I feel like a Caucasian person
mm,
reading your book should also not feel like
mm-hmm,
only Black people can relate to this because
yes,
Caucasian also a teen also for what so in the village what are they going to be doing there
like
like it needs to be
why?
wide reaching and love for me is
Yeah,
universal, so I also feel like even
yes,
that person at the village is going to pick up the book
mm,
and see pieces of themselves, you understand, because love
yeah,
is
yeah,
universal. It doesn't have to be
yes,
located in a you know, and just because they're black doesn't mean, like I'm saying, like let's try and share the trauma, guys. Let's
Yes, let's
let
be
it go,
chill. Let's love each other. Let it
especially
shine.
in
And
romance. Like
that's,
this is
yeah, exactly. So I'm like, this is where I'm at. I just want them to be happy. Let there not be drama. Like, fine, there will be drama, but let it not be that. Let's make him safe. Let's make him make him rich. Okay, you don't have to. Don't struggle. He's a billionaire and he doesn't even flash it. That's what I love about him. Like,
and
I've got all this money and
Oksana also. We are writing fiction here. It can be
yes.
anything I say it is. Yeah, I love that. I
Exactly.
love that. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Okay.
Thanks,
Okay.
thanks.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get into some of your themes, so I feel like they're gonna
Mm.
find out a bit more about the book. Hi Sammy. Sammy says, I love your work.
Bye. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Love it for you.
Yeah.
Love it for you. So
Uh-huh.
my next question would be
Uh,
with the few people that I have had like short discussions with who have read your book, and I agree with
mm,
them. I see you probably saw it in my vlog as well, that it is a bit of a slow
mm-hmm.
burn. I'm not a slow burn
Yeah.
type of
Fair,
person,
fair.
but
Yeah.
I like the fact that you made us care about Delia before we fully
Mm.
understood her romance with Dom, right?
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
And it is one of those books that do pick up pace, which I really appreciate. It has some
Whew, thank
romance
goodness.
tropes around, like we were saying,
Mm,
wealthy man and average in terms of in the pocket woman. What
mm,
made you go
mm.
for this trope that talks about the rich man and the woman who's normal, neutral in terms of their purse?
Yeah. Mm. Okay, funny enough, I didn't want to make it your typical rich dude, average woman, because there's a lot of that everywhere. And it's always like when she sees how much money he has, she gets doe-eyed and, oh, he's going to give me the world. But the way Delia responds to it is like,
Mhm.
okay, that's just an afterthought. Because then,
Yes.
fine, she gets a little flustered that, okay, the first time she comes to visit him, he has his own place already, yet he's a student. And it's like, how you this and then this car, how are you driving that as a student and but then like a little bit after, as she gets to know him, she's more focused on his story than she is on his richness. So now that trope for me, it didn't feel very tropey. It's just like, let's
Okay.
create this
Okay.
delicious man and let's give him all these
Make him
things that will
perfect.
make
That's what you thought. Let's make him
exactly.
perfect.
And then as much as it's a little, what's the word, shallow seeming, I'm like,
Yeah.
money is really delicious. It is. Money, security
And
that money brings. So,
as people might think shallow, that's actually the man that's in their heads. Hey, women.
mm,
That's the man
mm,
that they might think, oh, it's so shallow of you to create. That is the man they want to
that's
bump into
okay.
by the bus stop.
Yes.
That is
You
him.
know,
It's him.
and the bus
Dom is
stop
him.
really. Yeah. Yes. So I'm like, we're gonna make him rich. Everybody's gonna know he's rich, but he's not gonna flash it. He's not gonna
Yeah,
in
yeah,
your
yeah,
face
yeah,
fly you
yeah.
to
It's not
Paris
his
for a
looting.
weekend.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's not his, like, if he was standing there by himself in his jeans, his hoodie, and his sneakers, you're not gonna say, "Here stands Dom rich."
Mm, mm,
That's
mm,
it's
mm,
there. It's an
mm,
afterthought.
mm,
But all that matters is who he is and not what he has.
mm,
And that's what I wanted to bring
mm,
forward, particularly with the way Delia interacts with him and his
mm, mm,
material things. Because
mm,
like even you see in the whole of the book, he
mm,
doesn't he doesn't gift her with like seemingly impossible things. Like he's not gonna give her the most expensive watch. He makes her hot chocolate. He makes it for her because
mm,
like
mm,
his
mm,
mother brought it for him out of the
mm.
love of her heart, and now he wants to share that with her. So
Yes,
now
it's
it
an
shows that
experience. Yeah.
yes. So then
Mm,
like even though it's tropey, but I'm like, that's not it though. It's not the main
mm.
thing. We
Yeah,
here
I
for
hear you.
love
I hear
and
you. I hear
yeah.
you.
So yeah,
Yeah, I do
pretty
hear you.
much.
And especially about Dom, like you're saying, in as much as he is the wealthy trope, there is something
Yeah.
that is pretty wholesome about him as well, right? There is something
Yes.
that
Yes. Yes.
I feel like you can connect to. You don't feel like he's the typical, like you're saying, wealthy man in this
Yeah.
romance story. Fine. So
Mm.
Can you, part of the books, right? Not part of the books, most of
Yeah.
the chapters in the book are broken up by poetry or prose, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Can you walk
Yeah.
us through the intention and purpose of using that type of style to give insight into
Yeah.
Delia's mind?
Yeah. Okay, so the first part of it is when I started writing, and okay, let me not write, let me talk about writing, but sharing my writing with the world. It started with poetry and prose. That's how
Mm-hmm.
Jane Austen was introduced to the world. That's where the biggest readership came from. Because then,
Mm-hmm.
in the beginning, I had no face. It was just Jane Austen. And when you hear Jane, you don't think black. When you hear Author, you don't
Mm-hmm.
expect. So then, years after I started that, I'm like, okay, it's
Mm-hmm.
time for them to see who I am because I'm getting a lot of weird DMs. Yo, what's up, brah? How's America? I'm like, I don't know how's America with Johannesburg fair, and I'm not your bro. I'm like, grown woman, what is this? So I'm like, okay, none of that. My name is
Why
Jane
didn't you have
Daisy.
fun? I would have had so much
Like,
fun.
I don't know,
You
I
should
was
have had fun
feeling
with
very much
me.
in myself. I'm like, because then what's getting me is like you're getting these young authors and they are wanting to put themselves out there. And then some of the artwork that I use is black, type artwork. And then I'm like, okay, no, you must stop this assumption that we must be European in order to write what you
Or
perceive as
from
well.
elsewhere, not in Africa.
Elsewhere.
Elsewhere.
Like, bruh,
Elsewhere.
I'm like,
First world,
come to the
you.
table.
You first world,
Yes.
right? And now
You
would have been fun. Me. I would have been talking about the Empire State
know.
Building and everything, everybody.
Brooklyn Bridge, babe.
Listen to me, eh?
Like, there
Statue
was
of
even,
Liberty. I'm there.
dude,
Me.
like that's the thing. Like, a part of me wanted to do that, and then the other part is like, remember why you started this. I'm like,
That's
I
hilarious.
want
But it would have been
out,
fun, funny. It's a funny
and
story.
it
I mean,
would have,
can they be
and
serious? They can't be serious, honestly. No.
all the time, yeah. Because I mean, even when you're talking about load shedding happening, and then they don't even connect the dots that hey, we sitting in Jersey while we type in this poem for y'all. Like, where? So then
That's
only
it.
when they
That's
discovered
it.
that I'm a female black author from here, then they're like, yo, she can do it, I can do it too. And then I'm like,
Mm.
okay, fabulous. So then when I put it into the book, I'm like, that is like a throwback to all these beautiful people that reached out to me and they're like, your poetry has moved me like this and it inspired me to do that. And right now, this is how I
Mm.
feel. And you are giving a voice to my feelings. And I'm like, okay, so we're going to do this. And then also, maybe I overthought this a little bit, like because Delia loves writing, right? And then you see a lot of books where they talk about their lead characters and they give us as the reader insight into what they do. And it's sort of
Mhm.
in depth enough that you can hold it in conversation. And that
Yes.
when you go out into the world, you can see, oh, hey, that character is just like George from whichever book. So then I wanted the world to see that when Delia writes, she writes. And then it shows that this is how
Mm.
she expresses herself.
Mm.
This is how she processes what's going on with her life. And that it also
Mm.
brings her into the real world. Because someone out there in the
Mm.
world is going to read, for example, the poem Upward and Onward when she's in the
Mm.
car going to varsity for the first time. Someone could
Mm.
read that poem and think about it from that perspective. Like, for example, you're moving to a new town, you're going into a new chapter of your life, and you're trying to amp yourself up. Like, okay, I know I'm scared, I don't know what's coming, but I am growing. And this is the point upward, onward, child. So I wanted to bring her into the world, like, give, for example, people who are not used to books that thick or that genre, when they read the poetry, they're like, yeah, I feel this, I feel this. So it was selfish on my part, but I'm like, yeah, this is so me. This is so
Yeah.
me.
And also, you
Yeah.
know what, as you are saying this, I totally agree with you. I think during my reading process, I also had the realization that you could eject the poetry from the book or you could read
Yeah,
it in
yeah.
isolation, right? So it's
Mm.
not a part of you lose anything from the book if you don't read it
Yes.
with the book, if you get what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
But it does
Yes.
give you a little bit more insight into Delia's character.
Mm.
But with or
Yes.
without it, you can continue with the story. So now that you're
Yes.
saying what
Yes.
your intention was, it makes a whole lot of
Mm.
sense to me. And I'm glad you know
Mm-hmm.
that there's different ways of making people feel seen. And I'm so glad that you
Yes.
remembered those people who have walked the journey
Yeah.
with you for as
Yeah.
much as long as they have. So
Yes.
next thing, yeah. Now I'll be honest,
Mm-hmm.
the only imperfection I found in Dom were the secrets he kept, right? Now personally,
Yes. Yes.
I'm one of those people. I'm
Yeah.
for honesty, I'm for transparency, I'm for frankness, especially if you're pursuing something
Mm.
long lasting with me, right? It's
Yeah.
not so
Yeah.
much the contents of the secrets that got me, but the fact that he
Yeah.
omitted this
He
part of
kept them.
himself for so
Yes.
long.
Yes.
What's
Yeah.
all that about? Why did you do that to the perfect man?
Mhm. Yeah, because like even I was mad at him, but then a part of me is like, come on, you have to make him imperfect. He cannot. He's not Jesus. Stop it. Give him
Yeah,
something.
but
Um, uh,
we could have kept him
mhm.
in that perfect place. We could have treasured him for life until he omitted things. And I'm like,
Yes, yeah.
for me, it was like, oh my gosh, Dom. And then I was like, I'm a
Now,
daughter. I'm a daughter.
why
I
did you?
will
Trash.
be done. I was
Embarrass
like,
you in the
yesterday, I was
public.
in live yesterday. Today, I'm like, what? What? I'm a daughter. I'm done. Finished.
Trash. So like on top of that, because he's learning how to love with his chest,
Mhm.
he's coming from a place where he's been okay, even though he was using this to process his trauma, he's been
Mhm.
playing. He's been playing. So now he wants to be intentional now. Like, I am in this
Mhm.
for love. So he doesn't have a face for what that love looks like. He just knows the
Mhm.
feeling. So
Mhm.
now he's trying to be sensitive to her and her personality because then she has already stated, I want to wait for marriage. And yes, I do
Mhm.
believe in God. And then she's
Mhm.
very, very introverted, very seemingly conservative. Only we discover she's not that conservative. But like,
Yeah.
um, yeah,
I'd be like, yeah, okay, girl. Okay,
she
girl.
got it. So now he's trying to be sensitive to that. So now he's thinking,
Mhm.
"Ish, what's he gonna think that I have not only an interesting body count, but what I
Mhm.
was doing with all these women."
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
then on
Mhm.
top of that, here comes this ex, and then he's like, he doesn't want her to find him debased. He doesn't want her to think less of him. So there's
Mhm.
a
Mhm.
teensy bit of
Mhm.
insecurity plus the interesting things that she does on the side there that makes him feel like,
Mhm.
"Ish, if I blow this up and I really do love her and I want to be the
Mhm.
right one for her." And then
Mhm.
only to realize that if he had given her a chance, if he had told
Mhm.
her and given her
That's
a chance to process
mm,
this, then it
mm.
wouldn't have been as bah as it was.
Big,
She wouldn't have.
yes, as it was.
Mm.
Yes.
If he had
Agreed.
just been honest right off the bat that I have some
Agreed.
experience and this is not something you see a lot of in the world, and I know it's a lot, but X, Y, and Z, and this is how
Mhm.
it happened, but I am growing and I
Mhm.
want to be intentional with you.
Mhm.
But then, of
Mhm.
course, because he waited that long, he waited and she caught these feelings. Mm,
That's the other
mm.
thing. Like, I feel like they did have a phase where they were trying to get to know it. I feel like he should have spoken about
And
this
then,
sooner. Like, I'm
hey,
like, dude, like, when it comes out, I'm like,
like you had your window, Dom. You
for
had your
me, I was
window.
like, you know what? Only a man,
We'll
only
do that.
a man would keep
Really?
that
It's you.
in this situation. No, no ways. No ways.
Like,
And the thing is,
bruh.
as much as I commend him letting go of, because like I've never experienced of that world, right? But I can only
Yeah,
imagine
yeah.
that there is an element of it that is addictive. So for you to
Hmm.
be able to let it go because you're trying to pursue something, so there is something there that she would have thought is quite not even chivalrous, but it's quite endearing in the fact that you let it
Yes.
go because you are focused on something. But the
Yeah.
silence says to me, I don't know about
And you
you. I
hiding it
don't
in
know.
this room with a special
In this
door. Like,
very house, girl. Like,
man,
I don't know. I don't, and I asked
like,
you, I had a question. I said, what is this? Oh, and you said, don't worry, it's okay, relax. You could have just, that was your opportunity to say, yeah,
to say,
this is what's behind door number 2. But
you
you
know,
chose silence.
like it's fine. Like,
For me, that was the moment I was like, Jane, did you
you
have to do
suck,
this
my brother.
to our man? Is it necessary? Yeah? Is it necessary? But I hear you. I hear you. He
Yeah.
was pretty perfect. He really was pretty perfect
Mm.
until that point. I won't lie. I
Yeah.
won't lie.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I can't
Facts.
wait to open book number 2. Some of the themes that I enjoyed in book 1 was
Yeah.
an imperfect but
Mm.
societal standard, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Around women and
Mm.
falling in love with around a woman falling in love with a perfect man, also perfect
Yeah.
with societal standards, because lots of that
Mm.
is the physical, right? So what I'm trying to
Yeah.
point at is that I love the physical that you've created of Delia. At the same time, I love the physical that you've created of Dom, and I love that you've
Thank
brought those two together and made them attracted to each other.
Yeah.
Another
Thank you.
theme was the fact that
Mm.
the navigation of insecurities between both genders, right? Like we've
Mm-hmm.
already unpacked
Yeah.
just now that Dom had his insecurities, so does Delia, right?
Mm-hmm.
Also, the
Mm-hmm.
whole idea of how you navigate the issue of wealth or money in a relationship does come through.
Yeah.
The role of
Yeah.
parents and families in relationships also comes through,
Mm.
and how
Mm.
the imperfect often regard themselves as unworthy, which is Delia in this
Mm.
situation, right? Imperfect according to societal
Yeah.
standards. You measure yourself
Yeah.
according to this man and how society perceives this man, and you
Yes.
think that you do not deserve to be
Yeah.
in a relationship with this person. So I won't lie,
Mm-hmm.
I love how Dom loves Delia because of that. And I'd
Yeah.
like to know what your intention was with this attract opposites, because it's not really
Yeah.
opposites, right? Like human beings can be
Mm.
attracted to whoever they want to be attracted to.
Yeah. Whoever
But
they
the
want.
whole
Yeah.
notion of here's somebody who's perfect in terms of financially, physically, and everything, and here's somebody who's
Mm.
still figuring themselves out, and in society when they show
Yeah.
up they're not really the one person that people will turn their
Mm.
heads and look at, whereas they with somebody
Yeah.
who everybody would automatically
We'll
look at.
look
But
at.
for you,
Yeah.
yes, what was your intention with that?
For me, it was love will find you anywhere at any point in like life, because then almost all the love stories you will find that the way that they meet is perfect. It's perfect. You even want to replicate it. You're like, okay, I am going to, the
Trip
bookstore, and I'm
and
going
drop
to
my books. Okay, I'm gonna trip and drop my books.
exactly.
That's what I'm gonna
And
do. I'm
he's
gonna
gonna
bump into this
come,
guy, trip and
mhm,
drop my books, and he's gonna pick them
you
up.
know,
In what in
and you're gonna look at
in
each
what South
other.
Africa?
Be like,
In what South Africa? In which
in
one?
what South Africa? Yeah, exactly. So now
Dream
I
on.
had asked like some of my friends who have been in relationships for a long
Mm,
time, and they seem like they are as happy as they were in the beginning. And because they're
mm,
genuine people, you can even feel the love when they're talking to their partner.
mm,
And I'm like,
mm.
so how did you guys meet? And it's something as random as, no, I was like literally just sitting there, and he came and he sat next to me, and we were both very tired. And so, what are you here for? No, I'm here to sign whatever document. And it's like, and then that was it. That's all. And like, yeah. And then like one time I was walking down the street, and literally we just looked at each other, and I'm like, that's it. There was
Are
no
you done? Is that the story?
I'm
And
like, give me more.
it's the problem with Hollywood. That's what the issue is. Because we want, what's your version? What do you remember? What does
Hmm.
he remember? Oh my God, you
You
guys remember
know,
the same thing. You even remember what he
exactly.
was wearing.
You see,
Please,
all of that.
please,
That time, it's
my
just
guy,
like I
better
felt.
remember. No, you better remember what he was wearing the first time you told me what the
Which is fair, which is fair,
please,
exactly. So
excuse
then I
me.
was just like, no, love will find you when it's
Yeah.
meant to find you. Because
Mm,
then that explains how Dom was like, he looks at her, and then his response is, there's a physical response that, oh, hey, look at
mm,
that body. Oh,
mm,
look at her
mm,
hair.
mm,
But then
mm,
he knows that she's going to mean something to him when they lock eyes.
mm, mm,
And it's not
mm.
like it was across the room pining. She was angry. She
Yes.
was like, why this fool pushed me? Why am I
Yes.
hurt and I'm bleeding
Yes.
everywhere? Now
Yes.
people all up in my
Yes.
space. I don't like this. And then he just looks at her, and it's just like the last line
Yeah.
of the prologue. He's just like, oh no.
Yeah. Yeah.
The feelings are
It's
here. This
about
is
to
kids.
go down. Yeah.
Exactly. So then I'm
Yeah.
like, that's it. It's just love will find you anywhere. And it doesn't matter what your race is. It doesn't matter what your class
Mm,
is. If that love was written in the stars, it shall be there to find you. Even if you are not wearing your best
Whether
clothes,
you
it
want
will
to or not,
find you. Love is love,
I
healthy,
agree.
pure,
I
beautiful
agree
love.
with you.
So
I love
then
that.
that was the intent.
I love
So
that.
that's
I
really
love
it.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I see Scorpio rising is here. Hi, Scorpio rising. I don't know if this is a hand up or a wave, but if it is your hand up
Ah,
and you want to say anything, feel free. You can say
say
anything in
it.
the
Say
comments.
it.
We are heading
Yeah.
towards the end of our interview with Jane. And the
Mhm.
last question is threefold, right? I did mention to you
Yeah.
that on the Lit Author Lives, we have a tradition where we ask
Mhm.
authors to share some book recommendations. And we do this mainly so that we can also
Uh-huh.
showcase that authors are actually readers first before
Mhm.
they are
Yeah.
writers, right? Because
Yeah.
no one likes an author that doesn't read. Okay. So we see the
Bruh.
bookshelf.
Honestly.
We know that you are a reader. So the first book that we would like you to recommend is, what is
Mm.
the first book you remember that transformed your life in any way,
Yes.
whether it was through ideology or that it fanned
Mm.
your passion to write or that it made you feel seen or known?
Okay, so it wasn't so much about making me feeling like seen or known, but like that changed my
Mhm.
This one I know, shame. People are gonna think I'm nuts, and you're gonna see it and know immediately. So there it is, A Thousand Splendid Suns by
Okay,
Khalid
cha.
Husseini. Yeah, so let me
I
explain.
haven't read his work. Everyone keeps going
Hey,
on about
you
how
will
sad it is, and I'm
cry.
like,
You will
Anka,
cry.
I feel like
Because
because my tears are always here. They're always here. Ne? They're always sitting
they
here.
will
So
be
I'm like,
here.
really, really.
They will be because I
Everyone.
remember I had like asked like a bunch of my reader friends. I'm like, please recommend something outside romance. Like, fine, there must be love, but recommend something because I
But
was just
yeah,
so
real life
I was
stuff.
so saturated with all these
Mm,
love stories that were just unrealistic for me. So I'm like,
yeah,
try
yeah.
and help me out. So then my one friend recommends A Thousand Splendid Suns, right? And then I'm like, okay, fine. I bought it and it stayed on the shelf. And I remember the guy at the till, he's like, you're going to cry. Are you sure you want to buy this book? I'm like,
I'm so
I'm
scared
here,
of these
ain't I?
books. I'm very scared of it. Hey, I'm like, every time
Yeah,
I look at it,
it's
I'm like, I think I'm ready. I'm like, no, I think I'm ready. No, 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 it's
because yeah. Because
fine.
like
It's all
it's
right.
fine. It tells the stories of the women in Afghanistan, and then it's about a particular religion and a particular tradition, and the way that it affected me. I had to learn and unlearn and think and rethink. And like the way I can describe what it
Mm,
did was that it blew my heart apart and then
mm,
put it back together and made it stronger in the broken places.
that's a good.
Because
That's a
then
very good story.
because it's so
I love it.
and like because then even though I would know that my friends who are of the culture and of the faith, they're okay, because then I know them as people. They would not allow
Mhm,
such things that happened here to happen to them.
mhm,
I still
mhm,
am like, I realize how much I don't know, how much there
mhm,
is happening in the world.
mhm,
And then at the core of it, it's about the women in Afghanistan. But because of the way my mind works, because I'm not exposed to such women,
mhm,
I'm like,
mhm.
women everywhere. Because this story could have been written about South African women as well and
I
what
hear
they're
you.
going through. And it was, yo. And on top of that, the way he writes, his ability to tell a story, yo. I'm like,
Mhm.
Khalid, Mr. Husseini.
What's this other
Like,
book? The other one is The Kite Runner. People are also torn
mm-hmm.
with that one. I was
Yes.
like,
And
is
even
this
the
guy here
other
to break
one.
our hearts? Is he here
He
to break
is, I
our hearts?
swear. Because like
Lives
even
for
the
it.
other one and the mountains echoed also. Oh, like you need 3 years recovery time between his books to read the next one. They're not connected at all, but you
But he
like
makes
that's
sure that he breaks you. This is the thing. That's why I'm scared of those books. I've only got two, right? And I'm like, every time I look at them, I'm like, today the
be
day.
ready.
Is it? And then
Ah,
I'm like, nah, hey, real life is very painful on its own, you know?
yes,
Yeah, let's
yes.
try again tomorrow. No
Rather,
ways.
it's a lot.
No ways. But I hear you, and I love the
Yeah.
fact that stories, actually the power of literature is that it's translatable, right?
Mm,
You can
mm,
imagine yourself,
yeah.
right? You
Uh-oh.
can bring
Yeah.
yourself into that space even though you have never been to Afghanistan. That's the power
Yes.
of I feel, for me, literature. So I
Yes.
absolutely love that. And the second
Mm.
book that we want you to recommend is a book what is the first noteworthy book that you read
Yeah.
written by someone like you, or someone who could have have had the same existence as you have? It can be a male person, it doesn't have to be female, or it can be a non-binary individual. So whoever
anyone
it may be.
basically. Yeah. Okay, so this one, funny enough, is recent, very, very recent. So it's Celeste Feather. I'm going to butcher her name. Okay, so it's by Shamiz Patel. I'm not going to say the last part. Like, I'm sorry, girl, if you're out there, I just don't want to butcher your name.
Let me see. Yeah. No, I don't know. Papatanosio.
It's like I don't want. I'm like, out of respect for you, like my woman.
Listen,
I don't.
I'm also the same. Like I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Never mind. Like I'm like, I don't speak that language. I don't know what language I am, but I try.
Like, because like even like with my own names, my Ugandan name, I try not to use it because people butcher it. So I'm like, so out of respect for you, I love you, girl. I do. So I'm gonna, So this book, it's a fantasy book, fairly recent, and she's a local author. She's based here in South Africa, Cape Town, and even though her book is fantasy,
where did you get it? Where did you get it?
I got it from EB, Exclusive Books.
Oh,
okay. Yeah. Because then I discovered it, algorithms doing what they do, because I was trying to connect with other, local authors, and then I found this one, and then I found her, and then I saw the book, and I'm like, must get. Even though it's not my normal reading genre, but I'm like, let's do it, because I want to read widely anyway. So this story is about a character who's just like her. So she's Indian. So she's speaking with insight. And then she ends up in a different realm, and she discovers there's magic in her blood, and there's a whole story. And I found my new book boyfriends. Girl, I found my new book boyfriends.
Okay, girl. Sorry, are you touching down?
No, oh hell no. I've got many boyfriends. Come, I love you guys. All of you, I will just yes. So
are you saying you are ditching Dom?
No. He is my king. He is my king. So what I love about her is that, like you said, we could have walked the same path. She's a civil engineer by day, and then she's an author by night. So now I'm like, here is this lady. She did civil engineering, which is a profession on its own. And then she comes and she writes this banger of a book. And I'm like, check it out, girl. Same. I'm a nurse. And I wrote a book. Like, so that's where I connected. I'm like, yes. And we are people of color, and we are writing these stories that are not they're very niche in this part of the world. Because when you look up fantasy romance, you're going to see a lot of international authors, a lot. And now here she came, and then she writes this book, and she puts it into our space. Like, fearlessly. She's like, I'm doing this. I don't care if it's big in South Africa. We getting it. And I'm like, yes, girl, get it. So that's how I connect with her, because even what I wrote, even though it's a love story and it's romantic, it's got them spice. And we are in a conservative readership. So I'm like, me too, girl. Me too. We the same.
I hear
you. Yeah.
And you know what I love is that you have in your recommendations picked a local woman of color, because I feel like our local female authors, yes, we've got great male authors, don't get me wrong. I got some of them on my shelf. I was talking about some of them recently this week on my channel, but I feel like our local female characters, authors of color, we don't really talk too much about what they've offered. It's as though we expect, for me, it feels as though most of the time we expect women to know how to write. So we don't really make too much of a noise, right? That we expect them to, okay, let me not say right. We expect them to know how to tell stories, right?
Yes.
And so when they actually do tell a story, we don't really go crazy.
We're like, yeah, we knew it. It was coming.
You had it in you. You can tell a story, but I feel like we do appreciate it more when it comes from the male species. Whether it's nonfiction or fiction, we do make a louder noise, right? So I love the fact that you included a woman of color who has told fiction. For me, fantasy is the best type of fiction, right? For me, it's the kind of fiction that really takes you out of your world, right? So for me, when I feel like, hey guys, I need total escape. I know I ran to
go there.
create this planet and realm that
And
I
put
will
me
probably
there.
never see. Put me in. Tell me the story. What are they doing? What are they doing
Exactly.
here? I want it.
Yes.
So I
Yeah.
absolutely love that is the kind of writing that she has gone with as well. So the last book we ask for you to
Yeah.
recommend is the book that you will recommend until your dying day.
Till my dying day. Okay, like obviously A Thousand Splendid Sun is on that, it is. But like this one, it's not specifically about the story, it's more about the way the character was written. So it's that
Yes.
one. I Am Pilgrim. It's
Okay.
by Terry
Fine.
Hayes, and it's a
Okay.
nice sticky, nice thick book. So what I loved about it is that this character, he is a loner, absolute loner. He is a former intelligence agent, so he has two names. He has his civilian name and his name in the system. So he wrote a book about, I think it's forensic pathology, you know. So then basically it explains a crime scene, how he found his evidence, and it also gives tidbits on how to erase that. So basically, it's how to commit the crime and get away with it. So then, while
Okay.
he's there busy living his civilian life, there's a string of crimes that happen in the wake of 9/11. So now, 9/11, horrible tragedy, but it's like a lot was going on, and everybody's focusing one way. And then that means a lot of other crimes are just pretty much buried under the rubble. So now these crimes, he realizes, no, man, they're too similar to this book I wrote. So now the experts call him and they're like, but my guy, here are these crimes and here are the way they were covered up, but you know your book best. So lead from the front. So now he
Excuse
already
me, this
knows the
deserves to
crime.
be on Is this on TV? This
I
deserves
don't
to be
even
on TV.
know, hey?
Sorry.
Because yeah,
Okay.
that's how it felt like. Yeah. So then not only is he trying to find this villain who has no face, no name, no gender, he just knows the crime is there and it will happen. He just has to keep his eyes open for where. And then he's also now having to uncover a bioterrorism plot happening in Syria, and it's going to make its way to America. And then so now it has sort of like a triple POV. So the first POV is him, he's the hero. The second POV is the villain. So we're following him solving the crime,
But
we're
you don't
following the
know
villain.
who it is. You don't know who
Mm-hmm,
it's nameless villain. Okay. I want to read
and
this
then yeah, and then the third POV is just the ghost. You don't know who this person is that has read his book and is committing these crimes. So now, like, it's so immersive. I even remember when I was reading it, my unit was empty. We had no babies. Um, my team that day was a very chilled, quiet team. So they disappear into their corners, they focus on themselves, and I'm in this book. And then I'm like, because I'm an immersive reader, I'm like with you. We are there together discovering this crime. And even
It's
though
kind of
you
like a
know,
spell, especially like a good book is a spell, hey,
yes,
because you do get into some kind
yes.
of trance. Yeah, I hear you.
And like, even though you know that the villain is the villain, still at the end, you're like, no,
Ah,
you did not.
okay, I
You
love it.
did
I love it.
not.
I want
Oh
it.
my
I
gosh.
want book. I want.
You must read it.
Wow.
Because, like, oh, wow. So then, from a creative standpoint, for character
Yeah.
development, you know, and getting into the mind of the hero and the villain and understanding their motivations, like, even when you see that the villain could potentially destroy you just by virtue of the fact of your geography, where you were born, you're the target, you're still like, I understand how you became that villain. You understand how he was radicalized. Like, and that's a well written book. So, from a creative standpoint, from a writer standpoint, perfect. Because then
Exquisite.
it's like, you know, those books like for kids where it's like dots and there's one, two, three, and you must connect them and it makes a
Yes,
picture.
yes,
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 this
yes.
book is like
So they
that.
kind of
Only
like
differences.
leave clues for you here and there.
Mm.
But
So now the only difference is that with this character, there are no numbers. He has dots. And the way his mind works, he has to connect them. And by the time he's done, you're like, masterpiece. Wow, my brother, how did you even to can be? Like, dude, like
How?
even.
I
Yay.
love it. I
Loved
love it.
it.
No,
Yeah.
I'm sold
So
on that
until my
one.
dying
I'm
days.
completely sold.
Yeah.
I'm
You should give
completely
it a
sold
read.
on that one. Listen, I'm ready.
Yeah.
I'm even now, as soon as we're done, I'm gonna check if script has anything to give me
Yeah.
around that. Need it,
Yeah.
need it,
Yeah.
need it. And this is
Yeah.
why I absolutely love this recommendations because I've never heard of I
Mm-hmm.
Am Program and the way that you
Yeah.
have sold the story is
Yeah.
wonderful. Like, it's something that I'm
It's
like,
a big story.
Jack, say less,
Yes.
say less. I am going to find
You
it.
must.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much, Jane. I really do appreciate you
Thank
setting time
you.
aside. I know it's quite late at night. We who live in
Ah.
the stages, we're living in stages, right? So I'm really
Rah.
hoping that the video does get more engagement, even if it's a rewatch from people. But I really appreciate you
Yeah.
setting time aside and having this conversation.
Thank
It was
you.
really fun. And I really
Thank
did
you.
enjoy reading the journals of he. Like I'm saying, I feel like I want to read the continuance when I know that, hey, book 3, she's around the corner. You know, it's the worst thing when you hooked on a character, right? Then you have to go wait 3 years. We know how you guys do. You authors, no, I must wait 3
Oh,
years.
don't
You know
you
what?
worry. It's August. August the 18th. We
Oh,
are
I get.
here.
I'm open. Okay, I'm open in book 2. There, I have permission
Yes.
to open book 2. Great. I love
Yes.
it. Thank you so
Yeah.
much, Jane. I really do appreciate
Thank
your time.
you.
And we wish you
Yeah.
nothing but the best. Hopefully, after this
Mwah.
series, you've got something else planned for us. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Because
Oh yeah.
I
I'm
always
gonna
say,
try.
I always say that the most beautiful thing is seeing how an author can grow, especially if it's somebody that you've been
Yeah.
following from the start, right?
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
not only for you, but it's also an experience for us who are on the other end
Yes.
consuming.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we wish you the best, and we can't
Thank
wait to see what you
you.
come up.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Bye.